everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday night life coach. Answering 3 questions that you pose and answering them in a life coach manner, as opposed to just some psychiatric sort of approach or a counseling approach or a advice approach. Because life coaching talks about creating the future. Psychiatry heals the past. Advice corrects the present. Life coaching creates the future. So with life coaching, you go by the premise that you are the expert on your own life. Nobody knows you better than you. Nobody knows what you really like better than you. Sometimes they can impose your will, but at the heart of it, you know what you really like, okay? So, as a life coach, my job is to find out what's inside of you and to find out what the obstacles are that prevent you from moving forward in whatever this particular goal is. It could be a personal goal to deal with a family issue. It can be how to resolve an issue with a business associate. It could be, I only get this far in business and I can't get any further. You know, it could be, I don't know how to ask somebody out. It could be, oh, I'm so tired of being alone. I'm so tired of being alone. I mean, you know, who knows? Everybody's got a thing, you know. I gotta lose 10 pounds or else nothing fits, you know. I gotta lose 50 pounds or else I gotta gain, you know. In my whole life, there's hardly anybody I've ever met who needed to gain weight. Think about that. If somebody comes in a group and they say, you know, I'm just trying to put on weight, I'm trying so hard, and it's just not working. I think we all just ought to grab them and just 1, 2. Who can imagine that being a problem? But anyway, I'm sure there's somebody out there. And but life coaching is trying to help you figure out what's the best thing for you and the way to get there. And the best way for me to do that is to talk to you personally, because I have to know all the parameters and the things you're dealing with. And because you can't just flop out a patented answer and here, do this, and it's all better. Just life doesn't work that way. So we're gonna get into it. I got 3 of your questions we're gonna deal with, and I'm trying the best to make them shorter, but sometimes the questions you ask are complicated, and they need a little bit more time, and especially because I don't have the person to talk to interact with, because I'm assuming, you know, somebody says I'm grieving over the loss of a loved one. I don't know what your relationship was with them. I don't know who else is around you. I don't know how long it's been. I don't know what the circumstances were of them passing away. There's so many things you don't know, so you have to kind of invent stuff. But we're trying to do it in a life coach manner. Now, we have different sessions that we do where I actually get on the phone with you, and you and me will talk, and it'll be personal, confidential. Nobody else gets a hold of the information, and we just go through it. And that's when it really gets interesting, because then, you know, people talk about, you know, stuff that's real, and I get a chance to talk about some stuff too that I usually don't talk about, like now. Not a whole lot, but I do. And so trying to make them shorter. We're also working on doing group sessions, as opposed to that 30-minute starter up sort of thing. Actually dropping the price a bit and getting like about 10 people in. And the way it works, you get about 10 people. Each one has an important life coach type of question or goal that they want to present. And then we'll all get on the line together, like one of those big multi-line calls. And I will not tell anybody whose answer or whose question belongs to who. Don't give up any names or any identities. But when we're in private, we have a tendency to ask much more electrifying and explosive questions. And it gets really interesting because a lot of times, sometimes people are talking about things that you want to know about yourself, but you might be too shy to even ask, even if it's anonymous. So that is pretty cool. So we all get in there on a group session, and I'll do the talking. I'll take each person gets at least one question, and we just listen and to take notes and see how it works out. It's really exciting. So if you want to be a part of that, go to carmanlifecoaching.com and sign up. Or if you want to be a part, make a comment in the section below, and we'll put out a feeler out there, make a contact to you, and see if you want to be a part of something. And some of these may even be thematic. I'm thinking about people who are going through cancer. A lot of people have a lot of questions about cancer and what they're going to be facing, what they're going to deal with, how I should think, what do I have to look forward to, how do I talk to my family. We might do one just on that. We might do something just on ministry, something just on music, depending on the questions that come in. So if I see that there's a theme forming, I'll put them all together, because a lot of questions will be answered. And let's go to the first one for today, okay? First one today is it says, how do I get passion back in my marriage? Man, I don't know. What do I know, man? I mean, I've been a bachelor so long, I'm going to be like, do I dare even attempt? Do I dare even attempt to say anything? Should I just run past it? Pretend it wasn't there? Okay. Given the fact I already concede, I will concede the fact that I don't have the decades of experience most of you have, okay? So I'll just give you some concepts that I think might work. Oh man. Okay. Well, okay. All right, let's get back to it. How do you get more passion back in your marriage? What do I know? I mean, I don't. I would think that if two people are together for a long time, right? Just like in anything, things get old, things sort of get stale, and it kind of drifts. Everybody starts to live their life and do their thing, and it's just like anything else. It happens with all sorts of partnerships. It happens with songwriters, like a Lennon and McCartney. I mean, they wrote all those big hits, and then eventually they're like, yeah, no, I kind of know what you're gonna say next, and I know what you're gonna do, and so let me go do something by myself. And the Beatles break up, and they never got back together. Lots of groups break up and never get back together, and because they want to go do something else, because kind of been there, done that. Well, the marriage is different, it's sort of a lifetime sort of thing. It's supposed to be, anyway. I would think that if you're trying to recapture something in any type of a relationship, that you'd want to focus on what was it that drew you together in the first place. What was it that you initially liked about that person, that attracted you to that person when you were first around them? Any way to recapture any of that, to be in the same setting, go to the same event, do anything that is similar to that, to rekindle those memories, will allow that person to recapture ideas and things they were thinking at the time. Because what you have over everybody else is that you were there with that person when all this happened. You were there when all those sparks flew, when the beginning of this life and the seeds of this life, began to blossom into the big oak that it is now. So you have that as something that's unique, that only you can draw on, somebody else can't. You have that ability to tap into that. So whatever that's going to take, I would think that's where you would start. Now, there's things that I don't know about this. I don't know if somebody is, they have physical issues or that, prevent them from, well, we met at a football game, but now, he can't even walk across a room. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know, I don't know what all those variables are, but there is something that you can think of that will put you two back in the same setting, doing some of the same things, wearing some of the same type clothes, going to something that's reminiscent of that particular time or era, that can remind each other what it was that drew you together in the first place. Okay, I'm going to talk too much about this and bury myself in a hole that I cannot get out of. But before I abandon this subject, let me say this. I read this book, right? And it's really interesting. I forget the name of it, but it talks about people who get married late in life to somebody that they dated earlier in life. Like, what was it? Like Carol Channing, she broke up with this guy when she was like 19 or 20, and they were apart for like 40 years. Some big number, So and they had been through a whole different life, and came back and met somewhere, and they were both happened to be single at the time. Now they're in their 60s, right? And which doesn't seem so old, tell you the truth. Anyway, the thing that they found out that they had later in life is that when they saw that person, they don't just see them for what they are right now, they see them as they knew them. So that person always looks to some degree like the person who charmed them 40 years ago. You see this in couples that have been together for like 30, 40 years. There's something about that person that nobody else is going to see because they've seen that person in the very beginning, and in their minds it's like a kid. You always see your kid as a little boy or as a little girl, even if they're grown up. The guy always sees her as that young girl, as that young thing, as that cheerleader, and she always sees him as that strong construction worker, the guy that played on the football team, the guy. They always have that aspect still tucked away in their mind, which means they have a better chance at staying together because they see the better part of them. They see the more elite part of them. So I would think that anything that draws you back to the reasons that you were attracted to them in the first place is going to be a benefit. I don't know if this means like you're going to try to put on like one of those cheerleading outfits like from when you were 18. It ain't nothing I could wear when I was 18. I mean, I could maybe put something on my arm, but that's about it. So, but there's something, and I think if you think of something, you'll think of something to put it back. I'm going to be so happy to get out of this question and on to the next thing. Here's a quote for the day. Learn to get comfortable with unease. It may sound like an oxymoron, yet it is vital to be able to acknowledge and face discomfort and anxiety so that our fears don't trap us in a limited, comforting zone. I think I need to say that again. Learn to be comfortable with unease. Be comfortable with the uneasy, with the unpredictable. Because that's really how life is. It's vital to be able to acknowledge and face discomfort and anxiety so that fears don't trap us into limiting our comfort zone. Fear can limit us if we do what fear tells us to do. Fear can motivate us to do something else. Mike Tyson used to say, he's always afraid. He's always afraid when he goes into that ring. He always has fear, but he makes fear work for him. He makes fear drive him to hit harder, to hit faster, to be more aggressive. He turns that fear into an asset in his attack. So there's a way in which you can take fear and intimidation and use it for your benefit. Some guys are so intimidated by other things that it forces them to try harder. It forces them to train harder because they fear losing. They fear losing more than they fear not living up to what they say. So I can totally understand that. Here's a good one. Why do I feel so numb inside? Well, why does anybody feel numb? Your emotions just get overworked and overwrecked. I know what that feels like, to be numb. Because you're like, you've been through so many highs, you've been through so many lows, you had so many really good, exciting things happen, and some horrible things happen. And you just don't know what to feel. You don't know how excited to get because you're afraid if you get too excited, something happens, you're going to drop too much. Interesting thing, in an Olympic score, when they're scoring the Olympics for the gold medal, they take the high score and they take the low score and they throw them both out. Extreme failure and extreme success both tell you something about yourself that's not true. Extreme success tells you you're better than you are. Extreme failure tells you you're worse than you are. And they're both liars. Neither one of them tells the truth. So you have to eliminate the highs and the lows like an Olympic score and find out what else is in the middle. And find out the things that you have done well and done consistently. Because in your life, you're going to see some extreme failures. And you're going to see some unusual successes. Some things that you were totally blessed with that you never expected. Eliminate them. Maybe write this down on a paper. What are the greatest, most fantastic things that ever happened to me? 3 things. Just pick 3. Write them down. Then write 3 of the worst disasters that ever happened. Write them down. Now, look at the rest of your life. That's where you really live. That's the real you. The other you is when you're high and when you're low. But that doesn't define who you are. And sometimes when you've had too many experiences and inside you don't know if you should feel the best or feel the worst, you wind up feeling nothing. And you just sort of go numb. The Bible says Jesus went to the pool of Bethesda and he saw 3 types of people. The blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. And that is a representation of who we were. The blind, people that can't see. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what God is doing. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's happening next. What am I going to do? Where am I going? Where's my life heading to? They're just blind to the direction of life. Physically blind, mentally blind, spiritually blind. There's those who are lame. The lame person is somebody that walks with an injury. They limp. And as you see them limping, you can tell what their injury was, especially if their leg is like stiff. You know that person had an injury, and they carry that injury with them all through life. Matter of fact, everything they do, every decision they make, every place they go, you see them carry that injury with them. And they show you what happened they've been lame, they've been injured in the past. What God wants to do, and what I would like to see have happen, is to take those injuries from the past and leave them in the past, so that way those injuries don't dictate who you are in the present. Don't tell you what you can and can't do. To give you directions so you're not blamed, not blind. The third one is paralyzed. What is paralyzed? Paralyzed is somebody that can't feel anything. People come to church, they come to a party, they come to a gathering, everybody's laughing, everybody's having a good time, they're semi-comatose. You know? Because they've been through so much and they don't know if to laugh or cry. He just wore out. He just wore out. When someone's wore out, sometimes you gotta give them time. And you just gotta sprinkle them a little bit with a little bit of love and get a little bit of response and a little bit of emotion. You know, what do they do when they're trying to do therapy with somebody who's been injured and they can't feel? They just do a little bit of motion. Sometimes we try to, hey, come on, let's go to a party. Come on, you're so down. We try to take them from a lame, paralytic scenario and throw them into a football game. And the fear is overwhelming. You can't do that. You just have to do a little bit. You know, if somebody's like numb, you know, just maybe have a little game with them, or watch TV with them. You laugh at something and they may smile at it. Whereas before, if they were by themselves, they may just have a straight face. Well, now they're smiling a little bit. Little things like that get people out of it. When you're numb, it takes a while to get out of it. And for those of you that feel that way, I understand. I felt that way too. It's nothing new. A lot of people have been there. Check this out. If you do not go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you do not ask, the answer will always be no. If you do not step forward, you will always stay in the same place. I'm going to read that again. If you do not go after what you want, you will never have it. If you do not ask, the answer will always be no. If you do not step forward, you will always stay in the same place. In order to make progress in any area of life, you have to take a step. God orders the steps of a righteous man, but he's got to make steps that can be ordered. Because if he just sits there, there's nothing to order. There's nothing to direct. He's immobile, he's just sitting there. If he's moving, you can direct him and keep him going. Sometimes the best thing to do is just something. Anything that gets you moving, because at least you can be corrected. Sometimes we don't want to start until we can start. It's got to be perfect. Forget the perfect thing. Most important thing is movement. Get moving in that direction. Whatever it is, just start moving. You know, when I wanted to be a life coach, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get started. So I called up a friend of mine, Pastor Mark Sharona, Bishop Mark Sharona to many of you, Professor Mark Sharona to a lot of people. This guy's got so many titles. He's been to school so much. He's like in his 60s and he's still going to school. I told him he needs me to travel with him so I can interpret what he's saying. He needs an interpreter now. He's so smart. He needs an interpreter. So I asked him, so what should I do? What am I going to do? Then he found a couple places for me, and I started making phone calls, and then eventually I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. You know, I didn't know what it was all about, but sometimes you just got to get moving. And even though it took me longer than normal, you still just got to keep moving. Okay. This is the final one. Final for the day. I have a great spouse, child, job, church, and I'm so unhappy. I mean, we're like at 25 minutes already. You know what? I've seen this happen so much. And I see it in the recording studio a Especially, and I don't know why I see it a lot of times with background singers, because background singers always sing better than the lead singer, whoever the record is. Every record I've sung on, every one of my own records, the background singers can all sing better than me. They can all do things I cannot do. They can hit notes I can't hit. They can sustain notes. They can hit harmonies I can't hit. They can do styles, and they're just better. And I think sometimes it's when you don't have a specific, distinct style that is memorable, you're so good at being everything, you can kind of get lost. And I've seen a lot of background singers sort of fall into a trap where they just kind of disappear, and everything goes well for them. They get a family and they get a job and they're at their church, but something inside of them is just so unhappy. And usually what that unhappiness has to do was with something they were called to do that they never fulfilled. And it's not that they're unhappy with their spouse. It's not that they're unhappy with their child. It's not that they're unhappy with their job or with their church, which usually is what they assume. I'm not happy with any of this. They're happy with all of it, because usually they love everything. It's one other area that's unfulfilled that makes them feel unhappy. If I was life coaching you, what I'd want to do is I'd want to find out what it is that you wanted to do that you never got a chance to, that made you unhappy. What it is that went unfulfilled. What was that one thing that you never really put yourself into, or maybe sacrificed something for? Maybe we talk about, is the sacrifice worth it? Because usually the people that have all this never say, I don't love my children. They may say, I don't like my job. Hardly ever say they like the church. They're always got a little problem with their spouse, because I think somewhere along the way they expect somebody else, some other person to help fill in the gap of something that they're missing. And that person usually can't, because it has nothing to do with them. But I would want to talk about that. And I've had this happen with people, and I've actually life coached somebody into a career that did not necessarily have a career. It took a while. I didn't really realize I was life coaching them, but that's what I was doing. And help them get started doing something that they'd always been wanting to do. And they've done very well, but there's that part of them that's satisfied. They don't have that deep regret and sadness anymore. And that's what that one-on-one time does. And I hope I get a chance to have that one-on-one time with you, especially if you feel that way. If you're unhappy and everything else seems to be going good, we're missing something, and we can find it. I can find it in you. I can. I have ways of doing this. Okay. If you're interested in the group sessions, don't forget, leave a comment below. We'll try to get a hold of you. We'll try to find you somewhere. And if you have a question for next Tuesday, write it down. Let's see if I can do it or not. All right. Hey, no more questions about this marriage stuff, because what do I know? I mean, hey.